This special episode is an audio archive of the UK Games Expo panel EN Publishing Q&A, originally live streamed on Saturday, August 22nd on the EN Publishing Facebook page and on our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/EN Publishing.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to the UK Games Expo. We are EN Publishing here for our Q&A. My name's Jessica. I'm the Publishing Administrator at EN Publishing, but I'm also here with some other far more interesting people who I'll ask to introduce themselves. So I'll pass you over to Russ now. So Russ,
Sorry,
are you...
My apologies. I had Twitch on a delay on a different screen. I've just turned it off. So I am Mike Myler, and I'm an American game designer from Pittsburgh in the USA, and I'm famous for inventing the number 7. Is that good?
No, I mean, it would be better if you could you do your actual name. So, I mean, I don't know, just a little thing maybe might be useful.
So I'm Morris, or Russ, aka Russ, and I run EN Publishing at EN World, and this is kind of all my fault, I suppose.
Yeah, that's fair. That's pretty much fair. So we moved down to Mike, who you pretended to be a second ago then, maybe.
Yeah, I'm Mike Myler. I'm a game designer in the USA. I invented the number 7. Also, oxygen.
Wow.
I don't want to boast, but I try, But no, really, I've been at this RPG stuff for like 7 years. I've worked with EN Publishing for 5 of those years. And more recently, I became the editor of Insider 2 years ago or thereabouts. And then I've helped with our successful Kickstarters, with the exception of Judge Dredd, which is only an ancillary help. But I write a lot of content and commission articles by people and all kinds of stuff.
Awesome. Pretty good. And we'll delve into what those things are in a bit more. But first, there is another person here who I'd like to introduce as Mark as well. So Mark, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, thanks, Jess. I think it's a little bit unfair of yourself to say much more important people, because we wouldn't be able to do what we do without you in the background there. So thank you for that. But yeah, I'm the line manager over here for the Judge Dredd in 2000 AD. So I get to walk the streets of Mega City 1 and explore the galaxy on Russ's behalf.
That's a pretty cool job description, so I like that. So that's the team we're going to be talking about today. Later this afternoon, we do have a 2000 AD kind of Q&A later. So I think today we'll mostly be focusing on more of the other stuff than we do in specifically 2000 AD. But if you're interested in that, if you log in later at 3 o'clock, some of these familiar faces will be back. During this live stream, we'd really like it if you could comment and ask questions. Otherwise, we'll just be awkwardly sitting here talking amongst ourselves. As you can see on the banner, if you comment, you can win a shiny, shiny new book. So we recently did a Kickstarter, and there's a deluxe version of the Masterclass Codex, which Russ is getting now. It's a nice... Well, actually, Russ, do you want to talk about it? Because you actually worked on it.
Yeah, I don't have the deluxe one.
It's being printed right now, that's why.
Yeah. This is the standard copy. When I invent my time machine, then I'll have the deluxe one. But right now, this is the standard one. So, Mike, you can talk about it. It's kind of your baby, isn't it?
Yeah, so over 2 years ago, Russ was like, hey, can you start making articles about like mythological characters on enworld.org? So I did. And it became quite a popular column that I do every week now. And we're at like 120 or 130 some figures. And Russ was like, let's make a book out of it. And we did. It's gorgeous. It's filled with...
I didn't say it quite like that, though. But...
Yeah, no, it's a longer simmering build to that. But eventually that's where we got.
The way I said it was way cooler.
Yeah, and he had like stuff exploding from behind him, and doves were flying, and like sunglasses were involved.
Doves, yeah.
Yeah.
Dove can fly, wow. So if you would like a copy of that game for free, the deluxe version, which is being printed right now as we speak in Europe, if you just leave a comment on the stream, and then you'll be entered into it, and at the end of the hour, we will announce who has won that. And then
it doesn't look like that. It's got like a faux leather cover.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely, lovely, lovely book. And there aren't many of them either. We've only printed a small number of them.
Yeah,
we haven't done like a massive print run of them or anything. We printed a few for the Kickstarter, a few extra ones, and that's it.
Definitely, yeah. So it's just, I think there's a couple of hundred, so it's enough to fulfill for the backers, and then a few for us to keep because we wanted it as well. In fairness, I think we all wanted a copy.
I'm building a fort out of mine.
Yes, obviously. Okay, great. Well, we mentioned a few things there that are really interesting. So I think the insider column that you mentioned, how does that work? So if people have no idea what you're talking about or what a Patreon is, Mike, what is that? How do we get involved with that?
Okay, well, at patreon.com/ENSIDER is where it's located. But
Five, EN5 IDER, isn't it?
no, it's S
just
in
the
the
name,
URL.
it's not the address.
Yeah, the name is EN5.
I know nothing.
Yeah, it's cool. If you look up eInsider with the 5 or the S on Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo, you'll find it. But you'll also show you a couple free articles. The way it works is it's sort of like a subscription service, right? Like every article we release, you give us a certain amount of money every month. You decide how much money that is. A lot of people, that's just like $1 an article. We release 5 articles a month. As soon as you're a member, you get access to a whole backlog of 345 articles, I think it is now, which is just an insane amount of content. So we say frequently it's the best D&D deal on the internet, and we stand by that because, like, you just can't beat it.
That sounds pretty good, to be honest. All right. So we've had our first kind of question, which is just about from Darren, and he's asked about a timing for an Australian release, and I'm assuming he's meaning for mythological figures. So if that's the case, I can answer that. So the books are currently being printed in Europe, and they will be arriving here in the UK in hopefully the beginning of September if everything goes well in the world. And then we'll be shipping it out to our Kickstarter backers first. That'll be the regular version and the deluxe. Then we'll be going into retail once that's done. So it'll probably be like October, November time that it'll be available in retail. Is that fair, Russ?
Yeah.
Yep, he says yes. So Boss says yes. So that'll be available on empublishingrpg.com. So our website. So the details of that you can find on any of the streaming sites you're on or on our UK Games Expo page as well. So yeah, before Christmas is the brief summary of that. And we've also just had Darren Pierce, one of the writers for the 2000 AD RPGs, jump in. Hi, Darren. We'll be chatting to him later at 3:00 as well. So if you would like to have any questions for him about that, that'll be at 3. So the writing process for mythological figures, I think, because that's the most recent Kickstarter we've done, if we have a little chat about that. So how did you briefly touch on how it came about, but could we elaborate on that? What was that process going to look like for people that haven't done any RPG writing or anything like that before? What does that look like?
It was a little atypical because normally I have to go drum up work, but yeah, it was just something Morris wanted to have. So, and like the other part of it was it was like imagery that we could, because it's mythological figures, right? It's characters from history and literature and myth, old pieces of artwork that will give us something, because like any article needs to have some kind of image to it, otherwise no one ever looks at it. So like there's plenty of artwork around for Achilles and Boudica and Cleopatra and Anne Bonny and just down the line. So yeah, it became a request list pretty quickly because I ran out of like monsters to do after I went through all the Lovecraft stuff. And yeah, people come up and they say, hey, can you make George Washington, or, you know, how would we build John Henry, and so on. And yeah, we sift through those, and I'm slowly moving down the queue. We're down to like under 100 suggestions at this point left to do. And yeah, so there's 2 ways it goes. First, the mythological figures are built like if you were making a character for the game. So it's built, rules is written, 27 point ability by, and this many levels in the fighter class, this many levels in the monk class, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then the other half of the column is epic monsters, where it's just not possible to do that because, like, you know, Grendel doesn't really fit into any of the classes, neither does Dorian Gray, and so on. So they just get built like monsters and then double balanced using this really great CR chart that the blog of Holding made. They took the monster manual, broke down all the numbers, and then re-engineered the challenge rating chart to be, frankly, much more accurate. So yeah, and then people will comment on, like, I remember the Conan thread. It was like 28 pages of comments for people being like, "This is how I would build Conan." Forever. Yeah. So yeah, no, there's a lot of community engagement, which I complain about, but it's fun and I enjoy. So
I much prefer the Facebook comments.
Is that because you and I reply to them a lot, right?
Well, you had a lot of fun with those, didn't you?
I had loads of fun.
With your one-person mission to tackle every single troll on the internet.
I did, and it went super well. I fixed the internet.
Yeah.
I did. No, I think Russ is making a joke there. If you haven't seen our Facebook page, go on and have a look. And any of our major videos that have hundreds of comments on, if you're looking for a fun time, you can go through and read myself and Russ how we reply to trolls online. I enjoy it very much, and so do other people, apparently. I think somebody said they backed our Kickstarter campaign purely for the sass from the page admin. So there we go.
So it works.
We'll put it on my CV. That'll work. So obviously, Mythological Figures is content for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons that you can add along that. So Russ, do we do other stuff like that at EM Publishing? Is it fair to say? Plug.
Well, we did a touch more class last year. Was that the year before? It was a while ago. So that was our
last year.
It was last year.
Yeah, and then we compiled that with which are 2 books. Oh, Mike's disappearing.
Mike's is bit. I'm just going to mute him till he comes back.
Okay. So two books full of new 5e class. Oh, there we go.
And there is the Masterclass Codex.
That is the master.
Yeah.
So this is the hardcover compilation of those 2 books. And it's got 16 5e classes in it. Like the Alchemist that he's just and also
It is, and that is the deluxe version that you can win in today's stream if you leave a comment. We've already had a few comments. Like Mark's been very nice; he really wants that book clearly. So, so if you would like to win a deluxe copy of that, just add your comment on either of the Facebook pages. This is on the live videos or on the Twitch stream.
And the other big 5e thing we're doing, other than all the insider stuff which we've been doing for years, is we recently announced a little teeny little project. You know, this thing's probably going to be the biggest thing we've ever done, and probably ever will do, I imagine. So we're currently codenaming this. It hasn't got a title yet. So we're codenaming it Level Up. And it's basically what Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was to the original Dungeons and Dragons. So it's a crunchier, more... I mean, I don't like the word advanced, but we use it just because that's the sort of his legacy term. But a crunchier version with, you know, more player-facing options and more character customizations and, you know, just for those people who like 5e, they've been playing it for like 4 or 5 years, and now they're thinking, I just like it just a little more complex. You know, it doesn't have to go sort of super complex, but just a little bit extra to dig into when you're playing.
We should add that it's backwards compatible.
And it's fully backwards compatible with 5e, yeah. And we literally only just started because we've been recruiting for the last week or 2. We've pretty much got a good portion of our team in place now. We're only behind the scenes on Trello talking away about designs, and we've got some initial bits of work in already and stuff like that. We're still waiting on a few more people, so we haven't really launched into it quite yet. And the whole thing is going to be like this data-driven process. So what we're doing is we're using, like Wizards of the Coast and like Paizo do, and people like that do so well. We're using playtest packets. We're using big surveys. You know, we're doing it all, you know, by the book. Like the first survey we did was like a broad overview where we just didn't dive into any topic in detail, but we found out, for example, that people were very keen on it being backwards compatible.
Yeah.
Very keen on meaningful choices at each level of advancement. They're pretty keen on having stuff to do with their gold at higher levels, which is something that, you know, 5e, you know, you tend to, as you get into your sort of late teens and higher levels, you tend to have an awful lot of gold and nothing to spend it on.
Do you know, I've heard this, but every single D&D campaign I've had, my group has been completely broke. And we've been like, we don't have enough money to use a portal to go somewhere. Like, so I don't understand this. It's like, yeah, we've got loads of money, we don't know what we're doing. I'm like, why is our GM just really stingy? Is that it? Yeah, David Smith.
They really hate you.
I guess he must. But yeah, all right. Well, that's good to know that people that do have money in the D&D universe can spend it on something. It's good for them.
Yeah. So we've got a whole survey full of like 20 odd different topics that we asked people about, and then determine whether people were really keen on them, really didn't want them. Like a new initiative system, for example, right at the bottom of the thing. Everyone's like, nope, don't want a new initiative system. Don't do that. So, okay, fine, we won't then.
Okay. So is it fair to... So if people do have very strong opinions about this, where is the best place for them to go to give their feedback on this and interact like you're saying they can?
Oh, they should all email you, Jess, and you can deal with it.
Cool. Okay, so that's Jessica at enpublishingrpg.com. But seriously, is there a forum on EN World?
So we've got a forum on EN World, and also keep an eye on the Level Up website, which is levelup5e.com.
Yeah.
And that's where all the surveys will appear. So because like the forum, there's a hell of a lot of people in there at the moment talking about a million different things.
Yeah.
But the surveys are the structured way we're getting information when we specifically need to, we put out a playtest packet. The first one, I think, is going to be heritages, which is what were once called races. But every single company in the RPG sphere is dropping that term now. So heritage, cultures, and backgrounds, I think, is going to be our first playtest package.
Okay, cool.
Big survey on that, and then probably tweak it based on that survey. Maybe another playtest package on that, or move. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Cool. I just put a link in the comments for everybody there. So if you are interested in that, there's a link to the website there, so you can go and find more information on that. Jumping back to mythological figures, we've had a question which is quite interesting, which I will pose to everybody. So I'm going to start with Mark, and the question they've asked is, which of the entries in the new mythological characters book surprised you the most?
It's hard to say, really.
I know what mine is. I was surprised to see Santa in there.
I wasn't surprised to see any of them in there because I asked for them all. I don't know. The Invisible Man, he's surprising. He surprises you. You don't know he's there, and then suddenly he taps you on your shoulder. There you go. He is definitely the most surprising character in that book.
All right, fair enough.
And he has the best ability as well. I just love this one. So obviously you have to put this in the stat block, because otherwise... But one of his traits is invisible. The Invisible Man is invisible. I love that. Just sitting there in the stat block.
It's worth saying. It's worth saying. All right, Mike, what about you? I know you weren't necessarily pretty surprised by it because you wrote it, but what was the most interesting kind of one you enjoyed the most, maybe?
I think the most surprising, because I have a minor degree in mythology, but that doesn't make me an expert by any measure. So I'm always finding out new stuff I didn't know about in researching the other articles. And Baylor was the one that caught me off guard, because when I think of the Baylor, I think of fly fools. But the Baylor is this giant one-eyed general of Fomorians from Irish folklore, and there's this ton of mythology about him, and I just had no idea. I thought it was the big thing Gandalf fights, the Mines of Moria. So the Baylor is what I would go with, or Baylor. His name is.
You're trying to say that Baylor is based on a Balrog? That can't be possible.
That's what I was always mixing it up with. Wait, no, I don't know. Now, Now I'm confused about which one I'm thinking of.
No, you're right. You're right.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Just in case anyone is not familiar with this book that we're talking about here, I've just put a link to the Kickstarter with a lot of the details in. The Kickstarter has now closed. It will be available in retail in November, December time, once we've filled all the Kickstarter backers. But if you're interested, you can go and have a look in there so you know what we're talking about. But yeah, Mark, have you had a bit of time to ponder that question?
To be honest, I've had very little input in mythological figures.
Okay.
Having seen some of the chats in the background, though, I was quite surprised at one of the ones that had to be removed. But that's probably all I can say about that.
Are we going to talk about Conan? Are we talking about Conan again?
The crazy barbarian, yeah.
So there's a barbarian which is under licensing in the US, I believe. So
it's the licensing. It's not the
Yeah.
I mean, technically, we could do it if we only released it in Europe.
I still think we should have called it the Complex Barbarian, and then just that be it. Replace Conan with Complex Barbarian in every entry. Everyone will get it.
But every other entry is someone's name, and that one isn't.
I know it's tongue down.
I mean, that was an option.
I don't like it when things are different. That's not allowed.
Well, that's the case as it goes. Anyway, so I'm going to move on from that Conan discussion. So we talked a lot about the 5th edition kind of projects and things we do, but that is not all we do. We actually have our very own system. So what's old is new. Russ, do you want to talk a bit about that? Because you kind of were involved a little bit with that.
Yeah, that's my baby, that one is. So I made that 5 or 6 years ago. I can't remember now. So it was a Kickstarter a while back. So originally it was for 2 sort of fairly crunchy standalone games. And one of them was fantasy and one of them was sci-fi. And the idea was that you could mix their, 100% compatibility. So you could mix them and match them. You could take a wizard, stick him in a starship, or you could, you could have the Enterprise crew beam down to Hobbit Town or something. You could mix them and match them as much as you wanted. And then Mike came along partway through the Kickstarter, because the Kickstarter was doing so well. And he said, well, you've got a fantasy one, and you've got a sci-fi one. Why don't you do a modern action one? And I was like, I can't do a modern action one. That's too much work. And then Mike went, oh, well, I'll write it for you. So that happened, and he wrote it. So it is now a 3-book system. So we've got fantasy, sci-fi, and modern, all of which are completely interchangeable. So you can mix and match them to your heart's content, create any kind of big old mashup you want. And and then that system powers things like, in addition to their own standalone games, Judge Dredd and the Worlds of 2000 AD is powered by that system. And we've got a whole bunch of sort of setting source books like Xenomorphs, The Fall of Somerset Landing, and Spirits of Manhattan, which is nothing to do with Ghostbusters at all. And a whole bunch of sort of standalone sort of campaign setting stroke adventure books, all based on different themes and genres and sort of based on movie tropes and things you may have heard of.
Sounds pretty good. I think during lockdown, it is pretty good. I like it. So during lockdown, I think a lot of people have started playing games online, and a lot of people that are new to role-playing games kind of enter with Dungeons and Dragons because it's kind of the most well-known one. But Mark, how would you say if somebody's only new to role-playing, they've only ever played Dungeons and Dragons, how accessible or what's the transition like to playing, what's old is new kind of games?
I think Russ is a little bit unfair. I don't think it's a massively country. It's fairly accessible system, I'd say. Your stat lines are still there, so there'll be recognisable stats or stats that you can relate to something from D&D, for instance. But there's a nicer spread, so you can apply your skills to something that's probably more intuitive in how you make the dice pool up. Yeah, I think it's not overly crunchy. I think it's nicely accessible.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right there. It's about on a par with 5e, I reckon, crunchiness, isn't it?
Yeah, because that's I've had a nice little comment there. I think different is the term we use. I think the great thing about role-playing games is that there's so many different types and ones, and you don't have to pick just one. You can play all the games. You are limited only by the time that you have.
Sadly, you cannot play all the games. I've tried. It's impossible.
Have you tried?
So many games in my library upstairs. So many games that I've never played, and I know that I would never ever have time to play.
Fair enough. What game? What?
Right, put it this way: role-playing games come out these days. I think more than one a day. So even if you played one new role-playing game every single day, the part of role-playing games that you can't play would still be getting bigger.
That's
unless
very
you're
true.
playing more than one role-playing game a day. It's just maths.
Maths is hard.
It's just maths. The laws of physics can't be changed.
Yeah, so as I mentioned a little bit before, a lot of people are playing role-playing games online, so it's kind of changed the way people play at the moment. So I don't know if any of you guys are playing games online at the moment. I'm in one of my 5th edition campaigns has moved online using Discord, but I don't know if you guys playing much online at the moment.
Yeah, I'm playing Pathfinder 2nd edition campaign right now. I'm not running it, I'm playing it, which is rare. I usually prefer to run games, but at the moment I'm playing in a Pathfinder 2nd edition campaign, and we're using Zoom, and we're going to start using, because we didn't know how to do it, Roll20 as of next week.
I've been using that.
Yeah, we were literally just using Zoom, and that's kind of all you really need, really. But Roll20 just adds the graphic element to it.
Yeah, my GM's been doing loads of stuff with maps and music and all this stuff through Roll20, and it seems quite technical, and dynamic lighting and all this stuff. So which is kind of fun. So we're going through this dungeon if anyone hasn't used it, and dynamic lighting only shows you bits you've seen, or you can see around the corners. And but yeah, we've been in a lot of dark dungeons, and my character doesn't have night vision, so that's been really fun as well. So
So I've been doing online games almost exclusively for years at this point. I got one on Sundays, and then I got a wine game on Wednesdays, and then I'm starting another Sunday afternoon game. And Roll20 is pretty great, but dynamic lighting is like, first of all, for Roll20, there's something called the Roll20 Virtual Tabletop Extension, the VTT extension. It's an app you can add onto Chrome. It's amazing. It makes using Roll20 so much better, especially for the GM. So, like, Roll20 VTT extension, everyone. But yeah, dynamic lighting changes the way you play the game. So when you can like see the map or the GM is standing there, over the table drawing it out, you have more knowledge and meta knowledge going on than normal. So when you're stuck to like literally only the corridors that your character can actually see, you'll see a difference in the way that the players approach the game and different dungeons and encounters. It's pretty awesome.
Sounds pretty fun. Are you playing much at the moment, Mark, or just writing stuff, getting stuff ready for 2000 AD?
Yeah, just writing stuff, and really at the moment reviewing stuff. The writers have been on the ball actually, getting things in. So we've kind of developed the process over me coming into the system, and it's really flowing smoothly now. So yeah, we've really lots of stuff to review, which is
Mark's
awesome.
not allowed to play games.
I think two games during lockdown. I think.
Oh wow!
One being a 5e game, which was a great little one shot, and another one that I ran myself. Yeah, so not really playing much at all. Although I'm itching to get some Strontium Dog on the table. But.
Yes, the pre-orders for that have gone out, and your copy is actually on your way to you, which I arranged earlier this week. That's fine.
We got an announcement in our later stream as well. So if you're watching this stream and you're a 2000 AD fan, you really need to watch this afternoon's stream because we're going to be announcing something cool.
Well, that's for specifically 2000 AD. So I'm trying to hold off talking too much about that. But one of the things I wanted to talk about today, so that's a little bit about EN Publishing, who we are and what we do outside of 2000 AD. It is exciting for our stream later at 3 o'clock. So wherever you're watching now, you can come back and see that.
Just to let you know, Jess, that's Ben, one of our writers. So he actually.
That's why he's excited about it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yes, what was I going to say? So yeah, we've been talking a lot about what we do, but one of the things I wanted to talk about here was there's probably a lot of people watching that are really interested in RPGs and are thinking about self-publishing their games or getting into being writers for that. So I wanted to talk about that process a little bit. So obviously I'm not an RPG writer, so I can't really mention much about that. But I didn't know if you guys could each kind of talk about how you got started and what that process kind of looked like for you. So if we maybe start with Mark and loop around the other way.
Yeah, I guess for me, it really just started writing my own campaigns, back when I first got into gaming, so early 90s, writing campaigns for my friends, and then I became the kind of default GM, and that's always stayed the same over the years. So you kind of hone your own tools, really, but then back in 2014, there was a Kickstarter for Mutant Chronicles 3rd Edition by Modifius, and it was one of the games back in the day that had taken us away from D&D or AD&D back then, kind of blown our doors wide open on different genres. So I just kept knocking on Chris Batch's door and saying, hey, do you fancy me proofreading this or content reading this? And then that developed into a little bit of writing. Then I started attending conventions, and I know it's not the thing we can do at the moment, but all I can really suggest to people is that if you have a chance to get to a convention and meet the people that produce the games that you love, it's really great for us to be rewarded that way for somebody coming and saying, hey, I love this, all of that. But also it kind of makes you seen if you understand what I mean. So
it's like networking, like with any
networking,
really.
Yeah, totally. In fact, same with you guys when I came up and Darren introduced me to yourselves up at Expo last year. Yeah, get to conventions when they're available once again and get networking. Run games, and demo games if you can. And then that really led to Chris saying, hey, do you fancy doing some writing? And then that led to me taking over the Mutant Chronicles line, and here we are now. So it's all just kind of naturally developed, really.
It has escalated. But how do you approach well, this is probably going to be more for us, but I'm wondering how you approach a publisher without being annoying, really, because I understand if you're really enthusiastic about it. So what are the ways to approach it in a kind of a professional way that's going to be received well, Russ, would you say? Or what not to do or what to do.
I don't know how to answer that without offending somebody.
Will Wheaton's Law, is it? Will Wheaton's Law here?
Well, okay, let me rephrase the question. So in an ideal world, if you there was somebody that was a new RPG writer, they hadn't had anything published yet, and they were interested in approaching EN Publishing and saying, hey, I've got this idea, what would be the best way for them to do that?
All right. Best way
the ideal world.
Particularly, and this is, I can't talk for other companies, So every company works differently. Us particularly.
Okay.
If you're interested in 5e, the best way to do it, if you've not written before, is to go via Insider. So you go via Mike, and we've got writers now. Some Insider writers now work for Wizards of the Coast. There's people like James Introcaso and James Haig and people like that. They now work for Wizards of the Coast. So and like I believe James Introcaso said I was like the first paying gig he ever had.
Cool.
So that's one way of doing it. And we also, like on Level Up, we've got a few Insider writers now are working with us on that. So that's a good foot in the door. So you end up writing an article, and then if that article goes well, you'll probably write a few more articles, and then you're sort of in on the radar for bigger projects. So that's the 5e stuff.
Yeah. Mark has pointed out an important factor as well.
Spiel, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is just keep an eye out for the open calls, because like literally we did one for Level Up just recently, just like 2 weeks ago. Obviously that one was a bit more geared towards experienced people. I would say that Insider's more if you're a newbie, go to Insider. Level Up was more for we want people proven experts now.
Yeah, is that just because they're smaller articles, so it's less risk for us? So if we get one that's terrible, it's not like we've invested loads of time on it.
We don't put out any of them that are terrible. I'll send it back if it's that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've there's a couple times where
keep sending mine back.
Yeah.
That's just keep an eye out for the open calls. Go via Insider. I assume other companies have very similar setups. Start on small stuff and work your way up.
Yeah. So, Mike, what would you follow on with that? Seeing as you're the person that people would get in touch with if they wanted to get involved with Insider, how would that work?
So, and this is good advice for any publisher. If you're gonna actually get an idea across the board, you need to have a good elevator pitch. An elevator pitch means that we're on an elevator. We're going to the 5th floor. You have me stuck in that elevator for that long. So you need to get me excited and confident in your competency, and to remember what the hell you're talking about later in that small period of time. So get good at elevator pitches. Have lots of elevator pitches ready. Polish them if they don't go over well the first time or second time. And make me confident that you know what you're doing. You're going to turn in your work on time. I'm not going to have to worry about you. You're a good, strong resource for us to turn to.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest quality you can have as a freelancer, the single most important quality is reliability. If you can turn your stuff in on time to spec, that is the most important thing that you can do, because there's nothing that screws up a publisher as much as things arriving late and you're sitting around, because there's a whole chain of people. Then it has to be illustrated and then it has to be laid out, and there's a whole chain of people waiting. And if one person's late, there's a whole knock-on effect going on.
And if you turn over B work, I can improve that to be B+ or A plus work. But if you're late and super late with A+ work, it's totally worthless to me, because the train has left the station and your ticket is worthless now. So
another thing is, don't turn over stuff that's too long as well. Sometimes you get freelancers who think they're doing you a favor. You've asked them to do 40,000 words, and they hand in 75,000 words, and they're really nice about it. And said, it's okay, you only have to pay me for the 40,000 words we agreed. I just couldn't stop writing, so now you've got 75,000 words, and that doesn't actually help. That just makes life more difficult, because we've got to do either one of two things there. We've got to take a 75,000 word document and edit it down to 40, which is a hell of a lot of work, and adds weeks to our process.
That's what you do, Mark, a lot, isn't it?
Or we have to retool entirely, and now we're having to illustrate and lay out an extra 40 pages, which is a whole lot of money we didn't have allocated. So, don't go over the thing, because you're not actually doing anyone a favour.
So stick to the brief and be reliable when you get that opportunity. That's good.
I think
I do have one thing to add. I got to work on the last Warhammer 40, on the Black Crusade Warhammer 40K line from Fantasy Flight Games, because at Gen Con I went and I played in a Black Crusade game. I bought a ticket and stuff. And I gave my application and my CV and everything to the guy running the stuff there, Tim Heckleberry, and I included a small prop that I had made for my table. It's the Terrestis. It's a fake little Evil Chaos book, and it was just this stapled together markers and stuff. But it showed that I understand Warhammer 40K lore. I actually read the book, and I really, really cared about the game and like this application because I gave this like thing to him, and I got hired for it. So like showing real passion and stuff can pay off, but like do it with a small token. Don't do it by like gushing out and babbling for 5 minutes.
And also, you should have a special dance ready.
Yes. Oh,
We
the
only
special
hire people
dance.
to do special
How
dances,
could we forget the special dance? God,
What does that special dance look like, Russ? Would you like to
You
demonstrate?
don't want to know.
Okay. All right then. And just because we are live streaming the nature of it, we're going to have people jump in and out. So I'm just going to quickly do a little update for anybody that's recently joined or wasn't here at the beginning. So we are EN Publishing. We're a UK-based RPG publisher. So we're taking questions at the moment about RPG publishing. If you are an aspiring publisher that would like to self-publish your works, or you're looking to get into writing for other publishers, we're just having a discussion now about that. So if you'd like to put a comment in the stream there, we will answer your question. Also, if you put a comment, you'll be entered into our prize draw during the stream where you can win a deluxe copy of the Masterclass Codex. As you can see, Mike there has the base version, the regular version of the Masterclass Codex. This one will be a special faux leather bound book that's being made at the moment in Europe. So please do come in and ask your questions. We have Russ here, who owns EN Publishing, who is just the sort of person you'll be wanting to speak to about this sort of thing. Mark, who is a line manager for 2000 AD at EN Publishing, and Mike, who heads up the insider part of EN Publishing as well. And Jess is also here. So yeah, just to bring everyone back in.
She's the troll slayer.
Yeah.
She's the resident troll slayer. I thought that every British company required an employed troll slayer on the payroll at all times. Is that not?
I tell you what, the stuff that Jess does, I think it's that job that never really gets spoken about in RPG companies. Yeah. Everyone thinks about the writers and the artists and all this stuff. But the stuff that Jess does, every company needs someone like Jess. And seriously, it's such an important part of the job. And it's, if you want to get into RPGs and maybe writing's not your thing, I think what you do...
Exactly what I do, yeah.
Yeah, what you do, which is, you'll deal with printers and shipping and you set all this up for us today. And, you do an awful lot of the sort of behind-the-scenes background stuff.
Yeah.
And every company needs one, because without that, the company just stops.
I mean, it's true. I think the reason you hired me, Russ, but when my interview told me the reason anyway, is because you started an RPG company because you wanted to write and make RPGs. But when you're running an RPG company, so much of your time is doing all this business administration bits and pieces, and your time was getting eaten up doing that, and you weren't actually doing the thing that you wanted to be doing.
Yeah.
So
these days, my time's just eaten up with people asking me to do payroll out of time constantly.
I'm streamlining that. Oh my gosh! I only ask you on the 15th. Bit of fun bickering in the background. Yeah, but for those of you that don't know who I am or why I'm here, I'm the publishing administrator at EN Publishing. So my job is to pretty much do all the stuff that Russ doesn't want to do to keep the business running. Is that really fair, Mark?
I think it is, yeah.
So it's a lot of the administration. It's setting up these streams. It's dealing with the printers. If you're on Kickstarter, I will be doing the fulfillment for that. So you might have a message from me chasing you up to do your pledge, or if you had a non-technical game-related question, I'll probably get back to you about that. But and Mark is correct. I am the barbarian of the group. Is pretty much the summary of what I do. It's the red hair. That's what brings it in. But I would say that to people as well. If you are really interested in RPGs and you're passionate about them like I am, but you are not a writer like I am not, then getting into the industry for working for a company in a way that has your skill set can be a really good way to be involved in it. Because it means I get to be involved in all these games. I get to spend my days talking about them. I get to see like early previews of stuff with in no way being talented or creative at writing games. So if that's you, at writing games. I wrote a very mean blog post. I did. Thank you very much. Yeah. But anyway, so that's kind of what I do. But moving back into kind of people that do want to do that creative side of the industry, because I think that's probably what a lot of people are more interested in doing. So if somebody was interested in, they have a game and they're not just wanting to sell it to another publisher, they want to kind of create their own. How do you get started on that? Because that's a whole different process for us as well. So where did you start with? How did EN Publishing start?
Well, the thing is, things have changed so much since then.
Yeah.
Because we've got...
It was like 1920 when you started, wasn't it, or something? It was... Oh, no, I'm fired. No. All right, I'll end the stream.
Thanks to the time machine, that was.
Mike laughed. Mike thought it was funny.
What was the question again?
So how did Ian Publishing start? And maybe if you can explain how that happened and we can compare about why that's different to now.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally different to now, because these days you've got things like Kickstarter and you've got Drive-Thru RPG, which when Ian Publishing started, Drive-Thru RPG didn't exist. So, so self-publishing was a lot harder. Now the barriers of entry have come down significantly, which basically means that we've entered this kind of golden age of RPG publishing, where basically anyone can get into it, and that's why we've got so many amazing games and so many companies that have been built up over the last few years now. We're really spoiled for choice. So these days, really, Kickstarter is your friend. Really is. Kickstarter is amazing. It's been a massive, massive boom to the industry. It's just like opened the doors for so many small companies. I mean, even like people like Monty Cook Games, was pretty much founded off the back of their first big successful Numenera Kickstarter, which did like $500,000 or something like that. So even like really big famous people, it's helping them start up companies. Let alone people who are new to the industry. So Kickstarter. That's basically the biggest piece of advice I can think of. Kickstarter is your friend, as long as you do it right. As long as you don't.
And how would and I'm going to open this up to everybody to jump in on. So I'm running an RPG Kickstarter because I think everyone's kind of got ideas and a little bit of experience in this here. How do you approach that? What is the right way to do that?
Research and marketing.
Research and marketing.
Yeah.
I mean,
to start off with.
Yeah, you got to make sure that you have a strong launch, which means you need to make sure that you are doing your marketing well before your Kickstarter.
Because like 6 weeks minimum.
The other side of what I do is the news stuff on PM World. And the number of times I'll get an email from someone saying, "Oh, our Kickstarter ends in 6 days. We haven't made our goal. Can you help us get the word out?" And I was like, "It's too
late.
It's too late now, mate. It's, you should have sent me this a month before the Kickstarter even launched. So when your Kickstarter actually launches, there's people waiting for it.
Yeah, because they do have a button now on Facebook where you can say notify me when this launches. So that's a really
new thing. Yeah, that's
useful.
only come in the last year. So I think
that's cool. So if people have a Kickstarter coming up, they can get in touch with us on EM World to let us know about it. I'm just pulling up the correct contact details because I know there's a specific one where we can.
That'll be
can
Egg
do that.
Embry is our Kickstarter
That's
column.
the one. Well, I'll link to the page, and if you go onto the contact page, you can find Egg's details on there. So if you are planning on launching a Kickstarter in 6 weeks' time, an RPG news site might be a good place to promote that, for example. Okay, so it's planning it in advance and building kind of an audience beforehand. And I think it's fair to say being involved with the games community, like Mike was mentioning, going to conventions, knowing who people are, will really help you out with that as well. So that's a really good thing to do. So marketing beforehand. So what else is in the actual campaign itself? How do you structure a good RPG Kickstarter campaign?
Well, we do ours a bit differently. So I don't know whether the way we do it would necessarily work for other people. Because we don't do...
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure everyone who's used Kickstarter knows what stretch goals are. And they are a really, really good way of generating interest in your campaign, and a really good way of making sure your fund total is going to be a lot higher.
Mm-hmm.
It does, stretch goals do it, but we don't do that at all. We just, we're not interested in money. We like to have Kickstarters that don't make loads of money, so we don't do stretch goals. The reason we don't do stretch goals is because the problem with stretch goals is, while it's awesome that while you're running a Kickstarter, everyone's going, "Oh, can you add this in if you hit this number of dollars? This would make a good stretch goal." Every stretch goal you're adding is increasing the delivery time.
Yeah, because you've got to write it and make it, and
You hear about these Kickstarters out there where people are like, it's 2 years on and they're still working on those stretch goals, and they don't want to be doing that. They want to be moving on to the next thing. They've got ideas, they've got projects, they've got things to do. and they're stuck doing these stretch goals for years at a time. We pretty much Kickstarter's over, rewards sent out, we're done. We're on to the next thing on our list of things to do. So we don't do the stretch goal thing at all. But that is an option if you want to do that. And
That's
also, we get told we're stupid for not doing stretch goals quite a lot too. I've been told.
Yeah.
I mean, we have stretch goals, but we don't have traditional stretch goals. Our stretch goals are
I call them stretch rewards. You see, they're slightly different.
Yeah.
They're things that we've already created.
So for those who are not familiar, what we kind of do is if we hit X amount of target, we will give you a free little kind of supplement PDF of something immediately. And you get that kind of straight away. So it's quite nice for our backers. It means during the campaign, they are getting little kind of bonus bits and pieces as it goes through, which is quite nice.
This is stuff that we're promising to make later. It's stuff that we've made, and we say, you can have this if we reach, say, $15,000. You can have it.
Yeah. So we've had a question about would we consider doing what others include as stretch goals as completely different Kickstarters or quick starters?
Quick starters. We're doing a quick starter, and we've done a quick starter.
Oh, wow.
Quick starter. We've got a quick starter starting on the 1st of September, which is a week Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And that is for 65 enchanted trinkets for 5e.
Woo.
I love enchanted trinkets.
A collection of 5 PDFs, each of which has sort of between 10 and 20 trinkets on there. So these are magic items that, we're not talking dragon lances and Excaliburs and stuff like that. We're talking little things that will add a bit of magical flavour to your game, but they're not going to derail your campaign. So that's going to run from September the 1st. It's about 2 weeks. Well, not about 2 weeks. It is 2 weeks long. Digital only. You get the rewards, like we always do, immediately upon completion. So it's going to be a little one. It's not going to be like 100,000 pounds.
Yeah.
It's going to be £2,000 or £3,000, I expect, or something
That's
like
pretty
that.
good.
But, we're gonna be doing that in a week or two.
So yes, quick starters are an option. So I'm assuming that's not going to be for a full 30 days. That's going to be available for people.
It's going to be 2 weeks. My thought at the
Just 2
moment,
weeks,
I'm trying this out as an experiment, but I'd like to do one of those a month.
Oh wow. We're going to be busy. Okay, cool.
Well, they're digital only, and it's all stuff that we've already made before. It's kind of quick and
digital
easy to
only.
fulfill.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's true.
There's no massive overhead to them.
Yeah, if people are interested in what that sort of thing is, obviously you can subscribe to the Patreon for Insider. And their kind of access there. So every month this sort of thing kind of appears anyway. And on our site, empublishingrpg.com, we have kind of individual, we've got a lot of these kind of enchanted trinkets on there as individual items. Obviously, this bundle will be far more cost effective. And so if you're interested in that sort of thing, it'll be better to go via the quick starter. But if there's only like one thing you want, then maybe spend, a $5 getting the one thing. You can do that on the website to download as well.
Way more cost effective on the Kickstarter, like 5 times more.
Yes, definitely. We've got about 10 minutes left to going through. So in about 5 minutes, I'm going to be announcing who has won the shiny deluxe version of the Masterclass Codex. So if you have any questions, please jump in now. Will it be Hudson? If he comments in the next 5 minutes or so, yes, it could be. Hudson is Russ's dog, for those unaware. He's not got a... Anyway, so if you have...
Where was that going?
Anyway, so I'm going to move on to another question. So we have some questions here. So for a first-time creator, would it be worth looking at any of the other crowdfunding sites or just Kickstarter? So this is kind of an opinion piece. So what my personal thoughts would be, Kickstarter has a larger audience. So, and when you're crowdfunding, you're wanting to have the most people as possible having a look at that.
Mike, you've used Game on Tabletop before, haven't you?
I have. I was just about to start talking about it. So, Game on Tabletop is a very similar service, but it's specifically tabletop games, and they're local to France, I think it is. So it's much more of a European market, but it's getting better all the time. And from the project creator side, it's so much better. It's just so much better. Kickstarter is like crayons on the wall compared to.
It's got a built-in pledge manager, hasn't it?
Yes.
So it's
Game on.
combined.
You can go through from the whole crowdfunding aspect straight into the pledge manager aspect. It's ideal. It's perfect.
And just like the control over how everything looks and like your ability to display products and convey information is so much better on Game on Tabletop.
My feeling though is Kickstarter's larger audience still is
it's undeniable.
Overwhelmingly large an advantage at the moment.
What I would suggest doing is maybe doing your first one on Game on Tabletop, getting a small audience there, and then doing Kickstarter 2, because there's nothing stopping you from doing both. A lot of companies do that. I've done that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
But it means doing all the work 3 times over if you do Indiegogo as well.
I mean, I threw Vast Cavi up on there for 2 weeks. I already had the page done. It might have took me like a night, and we pulled in like $6 or $7 grand and it was already done. Like, why not?
Yeah.
It's true.
I've not had too much success with Indiegogo actually at all.
Okay. So Kickstarter. So there you go. It's different opinions, and I think different sites might suit different projects. It's fair to say as well. So maybe do a little bit of research about what it is you're doing and what projects have done well on those different platforms. So like we're saying, we do have another question as well from David, going back to if you wanted to be a writer for a company. So he's saying specifically with regards to writing for EN Publishing, would you be more responsive to something related to an existing line or an original project?
Existing lines.
There you go.
So, like, if you want to apply or pitch to eInsider, it works like this. Give me your email, and then I'll do a pitch call. There's normally 3, 4, 5 pitch calls a year. Everybody sends me their pitches. I blind everyone's pitch, and then I score them out. And I'll specifically tell you, like, look, we don't need any more classes. We got like 16 full classes. We're done on classes for now. We don't need more classes. I want enchanted trinkets and like spells or this or that. And those are the ones that you're going to get you're most likely to get accepted as a pitch, because I'm specifically looking for them to set up a schedule that, like, the readers recognize so they know what content's coming and what they're paying for.
That sounds good. And how would they get in touch with you to get on that kind of newsletter?
I have an email that I think is eInsider@enpublishing.com. Is that what it is? The mirroring one?
EnPublishingRPG.com.
If you go onto enworld.org, you will find, and go on the contact page, you will find Mike's details there. And I put the link in the comments there. So if you scroll up, you'll see EN Publishing has quoted enworld.org. And there's a contact page there where you can get in touch with Mike if you would like to be part of that.
Insider with a 5 at enpublishingrpg.com. That's your email address, Mike. There you go.
I'm also on Twitter at Mike Myler too.
Oh, as is on the screen. So you can also do the tweeting. So I sound like an old person. Do the tweeting. I'm very young and technically with it. Okay, cool. So we are at that time. We have a few minutes left. Mike laughing at me. We have a few minutes left. We've had about 40 or so comments. So I'm going to go to a random number generator. I have a list of everybody that's commented, and I'm going to do the prize now. So I'm just going to hold on for a moment. So if you wanted to get any last questions in, no, it's closed now. Boom, done. So ready. I'm going to generate the number now. Are we ready? Drum roll, somebody. Okay, so it's going to be number 23.
Which is?
I'm just going through the list, getting to 20.
I thought she muted herself. I was like, what?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
12,
3.
13, 22, 1.
And it is Mark. This was comment number 23 coming along. So, Mark, I hope you're still in the stream, in the comments. If you could please email me and we will get your details so we can post you a copy of that. The book should be released. We should have it in the UK next month, so we can send that to you next month. So if you email me, Jessica at enpublishingrpg.com, I'm just typing that into stream there. So Mark, if you email me on there, and we will get you your copy of the book. Congratulations for winning by just being here and participating. So I would like to say thank you to everybody that's come along and participated here. Thank you to Russ for coming along, spending your time, to Mike and to Mark for having a chat. Myself, Mark and Russ will be live streaming again today at 3 p.m. British Standard Time, talking about the 2000 AD line. So we'll probably be asking Mark a lot more questions because that's kind of what Mark do. We will see you later. Thank you very much. Guys, do you want to have any last comments or things to say goodbye on? No, nobody wants to say anything. They're all done.
No, I think we're all good. This is great. Thank you.
That's great. Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining us live. If you are not watching this live afterwards and you have any feedback, this is our first time doing live streaming for the UK Games Expo. So open to any comments or feedbacks on what we can do, for our next live streams if you'd be interested in seeing more of this. But all I think is to do now is to say goodbye. So we'll say bye now. Thank you very much.
Bye now.
Bye.